Hey guys, welcome to Tom Talks. On this episode, we're going to be talking about a new podcast you need to know other than ours.
We're also going to tell you about how you can get from Dallas to Fort Worth in 10 minutes.
Going to talk about a new neighborhood coming to Johnson County.
As well as should you quit your job.
And if you had $10,000 invested in crypto, how that could be worth $1 million today. So there's a new podcast in town.
Okay.
If you're in Fort Worth. It's by our new mayor, Maddie Parker. And she was actually serving underneath Betsy Price, our last mayor.
Okay.
Somehow. Anyways, long story short, the reason I'm bringing this up, the whole reason we started this podcast was because two reasons. Number one, I never know what's going on in the city, which as a real estate agent, you should probably know a little bit about what's going on. Mm-hmm. And number two, I don't think that our education system does enough to educate people with money. Mm-hmm. We're a capitalist society. Everything revolves around money, and we don't teach it anywhere. Like we didn't even learn to balance a checkbook. Like, did you have any?
Oh, we had like a finance class offered at the school, but it was an optional elective. It wasn't something you had to go through, and most people didn't.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge problem in America because the number one leading cause of stress is money.
Right.
And the number one cause of health issues is stress. And so therefore, if we can help people along with the money part of the equation, then really the overall life quality gets better. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, you can go too far, make too much money.
Right.
More money, more problems, right? Yeah. So,
yeah.
But anyways, the whole reason I bring that up is this is why we're doing the podcast, and because I feel like our generation probably doesn't read newspapers or news blogs as much.
Maybe not in the physical media form.
Yeah, and I consume my content through podcasts, through videos, through social media, that kind of thing. And so that's why we're putting this together, is to help other people be informed about what's going on. And hopefully they'll learn a little bit. So anyways, long story short, Maddie Parker came out with a new podcast, which I think is great because now she's going to be able to reach those people that don't read, the Star Telegram or read, period.
Dallas Morning News, whatever.
Yeah. And so it's called Go Time in Fort Worth. And a lot of the times it's just something really simple. So maybe it's a city council meeting that she'll just say, hey, this is what happened. Mm-hmm. This is, what we're doing and everything else. Sometimes she interviews people around the city. So it's a cool thing to help stay informed. And if you don't want to add another podcast to your list, we'll let you know if there's anything cool that was on it. So
yeah, like the Spark Notes of the Spark Notes.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So what have you got?
Oh, well, actually, I found it very interesting. I was talking to one of my clients over the week, and he brought up the new rail system that's coming to Fort Worth. And actually, whenever I started digging into this, they're trying to put in a new high-speed rail from Fort Worth to Dallas. And there's going to be a stop along the way in Arlington as well.
There's already one in place.
Yeah. So they're now going to be building what is considered an actual high-speed rail. So there is a rail system in place, and the one they're trying to develop is going to be, they can't use the current existing one for a high-speed rail because at that speed, and for those of you who don't know, high-speed rails go upwards to 200 miles an hour at any given time.
Okay. I know nothing about this.
Yeah.
Same kind of track, different track?
Different track.
Okay.
So it's a slightly different profile to accommodate the speed, and on top of that, the engineering that goes into it, whenever they build this track, is like curves are more fluid and things of that nature because obviously as you go faster, tiny things add up very quickly.
Yeah, you want to fly off the track.
Right. You don't want the Fort Worth rails having something going 200 miles an hour on them.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, this is being developed. They are trying to build an addition to the Trinity Station here in Fort Worth and have it go through along I-30 down to Fort Worth.
So it would stop near the entertainment district in Arlington. That would make a lot of sense, actually.
So the station, they have two projected stations for Arlington and Dallas. The one in Arlington is going to be between Ballpark Way and North Collins Street. So not too far from where Texas Live and all that is. And then the one in Dallas is actually going to be a little bit south of downtown, but we don't have the exact location just yet.
Okay. Is this a done deal? It's just like figuring out the details?
Yeah, so they've already got the projected plans, the everything sketched out and ready to go. It's still in the works. Like they're about 15 to 20 years in the making here.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah, but they've already started allocating and working on the project. There's just no physical work has been done yet.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, that's a good thing. Like think that we have some of the. I don't think we have a whole lot of mass transportation at all in Dallas Fort Worth. Yeah, that's why
a vehicle's kind of a necessity here.
Yeah, and that's crazy. Like, have you been to London? I know you've traveled a lot.
No, I haven't been to England.
Gosh. So what they call the tubes is a series of underground subways, and it was mind blowing when I got there because I stayed there. And I was like, man, I want to go 2 miles over here. So I did what most people do. I got a cab. And it took me 20 minutes to get there. And the cab fee was ridiculous. And then, so on the way back, I was like, well, let me try the tube thing. And I'm always scared of it because there's like these machines and everything moves real fast and everybody else knows what they're doing. But it was pretty easy to get a ticket. And I hopped on, and 2 minutes later, I'm hopping off. Oh,
dang.
Yeah, your max wait time for a train, I think, is 2 minutes. Like that's
really good.
It's amazing. Yeah. So, anyways, it's good that we're finally sticking our toe in the water.
Yeah, and I know this was kind of just theory work on his part, but Elon Musk is also proposing, the Hyperloop,
the tunnel
kind of thing. Yeah,
system. Yeah.
So it kind of has a Jetsons feel to it. We don't know if it's even going to be coming to like the Fort Worth or DFW area, but
the tunnels.
Yeah, so he's trying to create sort of like an international thing. I know he's trying to do like East Coast, West Coast, but I don't know if we're going to be along the stop. But you have to think about how fast some of these trains, like the bullet train over in Japan, was like one of the first ones, and it went just over, I think, 198 miles an hour ish on average. And then think of how fast that was, and he's trying to get this thing to go 600 miles an hour.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wait, is this different than the underground highways he's trying to build, or is it he's wanting to put the train in the underground?
Honestly, I'm not too sure, but I know his design is some sort of low friction tube that you sit in a pod with maybe X number of other people, and then it just kind of launches you down the track.
I've seen this. Now I do know, I don't know, are they actually working on this?
This is something he's just had projected, but he throws ideas left and right.
Yeah, he does. Because I know they're actually working on building the underground tunnel system in LA.
Yeah.
And the whole reason he's doing it is not because it's some great business venture. It's like he's tired of the time it takes to drive from one side to the other.
Yeah, it was some super petty reason.
Yeah, which if it happens, then awesome, and we could put it everywhere.
Right.
And I think you were telling me that like most of our tollways are paid for by like the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, or
So side note, not super relevant, but the toll roads, they a lot of the toll roads, especially around the DFW area, like the one not Lyndon B. Johnson, the one through the airport.
You got George Bush,
and
Chisholm Trail.
I know the George Bush tollway is the so a lot of these are owned by out of country investors. Basically, they see the opportunity, they dump hundreds of millions of however many dollars into this road system that they see as like being a choke point. So they alleviate that choke point, and then obviously they charge on it. And a lot of people think it's to fund the creation of the roadway, and in a sense it is, but it's also a profit venture for them.
Sure.
So it's going to continue to be tolled even after it's broke even, if you will. And I know a lot of people have that misconception that it's
once it's paid for, then
that's it. It's not a toll road. Nope. It's a business.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of these are actually bought out because by like a bunch of people in Saudi Arabia. They're
trying to diversify from oil.
Yeah, and they're the people that just have that mass liquid capital that they can throw at projects like this, and so that's where most of those end up coming from.
That's crazy. So yeah, if the whole point of that, if the tubes actually become a thing, then we'll probably get funding from them to build it wherever. But
right, probably about the same thing. Once somebody steps foot in the right direction, everyone kind of follows suit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, I always find this stuff kind of interesting because like growing up personally, there was I don't know if you remember, there's a train that goes between, I think, Old Town Grapevine and the stockyards here in Fort Worth called the Tarantula Train.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's been around a minute. It's no longer, the train itself is no longer operational. It used to be an old steam locomotive, just
cool.
But now it's, I think they swapped it for like a diesel or something like that. It still pulls the original cars. So what we used to do whenever I was really young, my mom would drag us to the station over in Grapevine. we would ride the tarantula train down to the stockyards, go watch their little gunplay show or whatever, do the little maze
we do that
they
on
have.
Sundays.
Yeah, it's great cheap fun for the kids, and I think it's like a $10 ride there and back on the train. And Grapevine wasn't too far from where we used to live, so I kind of grew up with a bit of an affinity for locomotives.
Why do they call it the tarantula train?
I honestly don't know. I know they have. So whenever you go to the station, either one of them, they have like a little lesson they give you on the history of it or whatever. But I was really young and I haven't ridden it in years.
All right.
It might have just been a name. This guy liked tarantulas.
Okay, that's a little disappointing. But going back to tollways, new neighborhood coming to town.
Oh yeah,
at the south end of the Chisholm Trail tollway.
Oh, that area's really building up.
Yeah. It is, and there's like right now, if you drive south of Fort Worth, there are a ton of developments. There's Tavolo Park, Llano Springs, Chisholm Trail, and then I think Tarleton built. I don't know if it was a campus. I think it's a campus, like a small campus, or it might be a veterinary thing. I can't remember, but there's a building there, and then there's like nothing until you get to Cleburne.
Yeah.
And so this neighborhood's going in towards the end where Cleburne's at. It's in Johnson County. It's going to be 2,500 homes when it's all said and done. Currently, there's two builders. It's an Antares Home and Bloomfield. They both build a pretty solid production house. And for those of you that may not know, in new construction, you have custom homes, which is where you customize everything. And then you have production home builders, or then you have semi-custom, where they have a basic floor plan. You can move some stuff around. And then you have your production builders that say, okay, this is what we're building. You can pick your tile on your floor or whatever. But for the most part, it's cookie cutter.
It is what
right?
it is.
Yeah. And so anyways, so those are both production builders. They're going to start, I think, in the high 200s. My guess would be 300 by the time they start building.
Okay.
And they have 50-foot lots, 60-foot lots, and 70-foot lots, which is pretty cool. So most houses you see in most like typical subdivisions around the Metroplex, they're going to be built on 50-foot lots. So it's 50-foot wide.
Right.
And so your bigger homes are typically built on 60-foot wide lots. So the fact that they have 70-foot wide lots is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of product's going to go on those, but I imagine it'll be a pretty large one-story home type situation. So
yeah,
that'll be neat. Ribbon cutting, I think, is tomorrow, tomorrow's Wednesday. I know this comes out on Thursday, so it'll be done.
Right.
And I don't know if they're planning on it's a groundbreaking ceremony.
Oh, okay. So they haven't actually started development.
So this is they'll probably start a year from now having, roads in and whatnot. But I just hope there's a big ribbon. I don't know why. Like there's
like the
something
cartoon ribbon and the giant scissors.
That's just, to me, that makes me happy. So it's probably just going to be a bunch of dudes with shovels, but we'll see.
Yeah, more than likely the one dude in the suit and hard hat.
Yeah. Like, okay, well, there's the guy with all the money that, is just out here putting a shovel in the ground.
I mean, that area is really building up, like I said, because you got what, Sandlin and a bunch of others out there. But I was looking at the map for Bloomfield earlier, and they've already got quite a presence down there.
In Joshua?
Well, in South Fort Worth in general, and so it's sort of just like they're creeping their way closer to Cleburne and Burleson and all that. Yeah,
I mean, it's a pretty big company. I know they build a lot in Burleson and Joshua as well. I think it's Joshua. Right. I know there's a neighborhood there right on the line where they built. And the other thing too, if you're thinking about buying a new house, we have on our website like a list of all the new home neighborhoods, plus the ones you're not going to find online like this that we add to it. So if this is something you've been thinking about, hit us up. I think we're going through a whole website update right now.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, and so we're probably a week away from that launching. So if that's something you're interested in, you don't see a button for it, just hit the contact page. We'll get it to you. So anyways, that's all I got. What else you got?
Well, actually, speaking of real estate, the housing...
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Website, tomstexasrealty.com.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That'd be helpful.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. But, okay, so as far as housing goes, like, the demand is super high right now. Like, people are
ridiculous.
chomping at the bit, like, fighting tooth and nail for houses. Retail space, not so much.
Okay.
So in DFW, we are at an all-time low for retail development, and this was from a report by real estate guru Herb Weitzman. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he does a lot of the reports around here of like the development of commercial real estate. He's saying we're in the longest period of retail occupancy we've ever seen in DFW, and what that means is like once somebody sits down, they stay there for a good minute. So there's not a lot of circulation. So you don't see a company come and go. It's just they plant themselves and they just stay there the whole time, which is great for them.
Right.
But for a lot of developing retail and new retail, that's not necessarily great because these big companies like Walmart, Target, things like that, what we call anchor stores, their footprint's getting smaller and smaller as they transition more towards like online sales.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's making it more and more difficult as that becomes the norm, and with these larger stores already providing a lot of that for new retail to come in. And this is specifically in retail, like industry, it's not as big of an issue. But
interesting. So like I know. So every once in a while, like recently off the 820 loop, Albertsons, they basically said, hey, we're just going to build a whole new Albertsons. And so that was vacant and something else could move in.
Right.
And so what you're saying is they're not building as much, or there's not, like if they wanted to leave that building, go to another location, they just don't exist? Or
well, so if the building's already there, so the actual statistic here is in the last year, there was only a million square feet of retail development in DFW.
Okay.
There was 200 million square feet available. So they're not really digging at new development so much. So like within a strip mall or something like that, there may be movement of companies, but they're not expanding to such a degree that they feel they need new physical
need to build
areas.
more.
Right. And it's becoming so prevalent with like you want something, you go to like what, Amazon or Walmart.com.
I was going to say, is that surprising though that there's less retail?
No, not so much. But the kicker here comes in employment, for like physical employment for these employees. While we may be in like the lowest period of development for retail, we are in DFW the number one source of labor in the nation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So just more people are working from home?
Well, the amount of labor the amount of people working like jobs and stuff like that is number one in the nation. So I'm not exactly sure if it's for physical retail, like in this case, or just in general, like the employment is very high right now. And so you have, well, in Texas in general, because Austin is like third in the nation, Houston 8th, and then San Antonio is like 24th. So we've got like 4 big powerhouses, and it looks like in the near future, at least, that's not going to change from what they've seen. So what this means is for, like I said, for retail specifically, maybe not for like industry and a couple other things, but a lot of the employees are sort of taking back the power from the company in that case, because they are in a position where they're in very high demand for the actual position. Since so many people are employed, there's fewer people going out looking for jobs, and there's fewer.
Which has been an issue from a lot of business owners that I've talked to. It's like there's not a bunch of people out there applying. Like everywhere you go, you see help wanted signs.
Yeah, and so I mean, this is kind of like, it's kind of a whatever thing. It depends on what side of the line you're on. But for people applying for a lot of these jobs, it's really good for them. And I know retail is like not exactly the most desirable industry.
Sure.
This is a really good bargaining chip for people who may be in that position.
It's interesting. I think I think this is part of. I think inflation is happening right now. Mm-hmm. I think we saw it first with construction. People are saying it's a supply issue. I think it is partly. I also think it's inflation. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is going to be part of basically labor pay catching up with that inflation.
Yeah,
right.
And especially with competing states raising minimum wage and stuff like that, there's sort of like a pressure on people in these jobs to,
So what's the big takeaway from this? Like what's
I guess the big takeaway is shop your jobs, especially in a retail position. If the skill set is transferable to some degree, start putting some feelers out there and seeing what you have available, because it may be more profitable than you think, and you may be grandfathered in with some lower end payment option. Like I know what was, minimum wage is like $7.25 or whatever.
Yeah.
So you may already be riding that line somewhat, and you may be able to find something a little higher paying somewhere.
Gotcha. Okay, so for the people that work at retail space,
Yes,
time to look around.
it may be.
And I've always heard the best time to look for a job is when you already have one.
Yes, you don't want to wait until you don't.
Yeah,
That's the worst
you
time.
Just take what you can get, right? Okay, very cool. And so the last thing we got to talk about today is crypto, which if you haven't heard of crypto, you've had to have been living under a rock.
Or something.
Yeah. And I believe it's here to stay. I think it's a great investment. I think we're at the very beginning of like I don't know if you call it an industrial change, but you know how we have, like, they name eras?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we're at the beginning of whatever era this is going to be
crypto
called,
era.
I guess, yeah. And so, or the digital, the metaverse era.
Facebook,
no. Who knows? But this is crazy. So everybody just heard of Bitcoin. Ethereum is like the little brother to Bitcoin. It was basically just came along a little bit later. But a ton of different blockchain companies build off the Ethereum network. And so, long story short, if you had invested $10,000 in Ethereum last year, it'd be worth close to $1 million today.
Wow.
Yeah. As of like 3 days ago, it would have been worth $1 million, but the market fluctuates, right?
Right, yeah.
So, today it'd be like 980,000 or whatever. Still a lot of money. And so anyways, I think it would be prudent of us to talk about crypto and have this be like the Crypto 101 for anybody that's not too familiar with it.
Just get their toes a little wet.
Yeah, so I guess let's go to the beginning. What is crypto? And why is it important? And then we'll get into, I guess, currencies, how those work, or whether they're currencies or not. So the first thing with crypto is the technology behind it is what they call blockchain. Do you want to explain that?
I don't know exactly like blockchain, the definition itself, but I understand that crypto is just it's basically there's X amount of them. There's not going to be any more. There's not going to be any less, as far as we know.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you here to school me?
Not quite true.
All
okay,
right,
so
cool. See, this is why we need this.
All right. So let's back up. Blockchain. So the technology, and this was explained to me in this way, and I think it's probably an easy way to grasp the concept. But basically, whenever you go to buy something at a store, so let's say that you go to Lowe's to buy a hammer. Whenever you check out, they have that transaction in their system. You also get a receipt. So there are two parties that know that transaction happened.
Right.
That's it, right? Nobody else knows. In blockchain, everything is public. So whenever, let's say that you bought that same hammer through the blockchain, basically you buy the hammer and that transaction is verified across 30 or 50 different computers.
Okay.
And so instead of just two people having a record of the transaction, 50 people do. And the whole reason this is important is because you can't hack 50 computers at the same time, or 100 or however many.
Right. It's so much more improbable.
Yeah. You might be able to hack a couple, but what's going to happen is the system's going to look and say, no, that's wrong. We need to fix that. And that way there's transparency. Things can happen a lot faster. The second thing that's important is it's decentralized. So currently, whenever something happens, a transaction happens on a website or something like that, everything's stored on a server. So the server holds all the records in a database. If somebody hacks that database, then they can change whatever, all that kind of stuff. And this is where you have also, like in social media, Facebook controls everything, right?
Pretty much.
Well, on a decentralized network, everything's stored across many different computers, and so there's nobody can dictate what happens with all the information. So it's kind of a scary thing at the same time, but there's a lot of benefits to it. So That's the blockchain. I guess it's the easiest way for me to put it for what blockchain is. And there's a lot of different uses for it other than just currency. People have been talking about a social credit. So you could have a blockchain where people rate your social credit,
Yeah.
They also have programs out there that are just like consumer credit, to where you can borrow money from other people.
Okay.
And based on you paying that money back or whatever is how your crypto credit is rated on these particular things. So there's
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of applications, and so that in itself, there's so much going on.
Yeah, that opens up a lot of possibilities.
It does. Now, what you were talking about with the currency side of it.
Yeah, that's more. I was thinking more the ledger itself.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
So, whenever you, and I don't know how this came about, but whenever you start a company that's on the blockchain, you can also put out a currency. I say a currency. You can put out a coin,
right,
or a token. There's so many names. There's not
some asset.
Yeah. And so essentially, people come out and they say, "Hey, look, this is the idea we have for this project. This is the team we have behind it. We're going to do an initial coin offering, an ICO." And they put their coins out there. People buy them. That's how they fund their company.
Okay.
Now, the crazy thing about this is that your coin that you just bought and put some value to has no tie to the company performance whatsoever. The idea behind those being worth money currently is if the company comes through, they do what they say, and they use their token as currency on their platform, then there's utilization, and that currency becomes very valuable.
Gotcha.
So Bitcoin has started to be accepted in some places as currency, and so there's a little bit of utilization there, just because they were the first one basically to market.
Right.
And because of that, that's why the value of that's going up. Now with Bitcoin, there is a finite amount, like you were saying. With Ethereum, there is not.
Okay.
So different coins have different rules, and so looking into Ethereum, the reason that Ethereum is gaining so much popularity is because of the network that it's built on. It's easy for other people to build their applications on top of the Ethereum network. Problem is, and this gets into the investing part, but the problem with Ethereum is it doesn't scale very well. So whenever the network gets really busy, so let's say that there's a ton of transactions happening all at the same time, you have to pay more to get your transaction to happen faster.
Gotcha. So you're paying for priority.
Yeah. And then here's the other thing. We talked about this earlier. I never understood what gas fees were or what mining was and how it was all related. So do you want to talk about that?
So from what I understand with the process of mining Bitcoins is, like, obviously it's not a physical mine, but since it's a decentralized currency or decentralized asset of some sort, in order for these transactions to happen, there has to be some computational power to keep the network running.
Right.
There's no one place. There's not like a Bitcoin factory where they're like running a server.
Right. Again,
to have
it's not just
happen.
one server making it all happen.
Right. So they basically what they do is they employ individuals. So if I go to my computer and I want to mine Bitcoin, I basically sign up to be a server. So I am a part of a computational unit that what happens is whenever a transaction happens, they send out packages of data that need to be transacted. So
basically the receipt.
Yeah, so basically if you think about it as like a big math problem. So they basically send this big math problem to my computer solves the problem and sends it back, and for having done that computation, I get a small fee or like a small payout from doing that. And that's how they keep the transactions running.
Right. And that's what they call mining. I always thought mining, they were like creating new coins, but it's really whenever you have a transaction, a very small percentage of that transaction is what pays everybody to record the transaction. And so At least this is the way I understand it. If I'm wrong, let me know. But
I'm sure we'll hear about it.
Yeah, from all the research I've done, I'm pretty sure this is how it works. And so with Ethereum, they call that fee, the fee that's charged whenever a transaction occurs, they call it gas fees.
Okay.
And it has some analogy to do with using gas in a car, but I read about it and I was like, they could have came up with something better.
Probably.
It was obviously like an engineer that came up with the explanation, but yeah, so that's the thing. So the whole thing behind investing in crypto right now is, number one, in a lot of cases, there's a finite amount. And so I was thinking about this weekend, and if you pull up a graph of the number of US dollars in circulation from the beginning of the US dollar to today, it's this exponential curve.
Oh, man.
That just shoots up, right? And the problem is, especially right now, I mean, the feds are just like full court press on printing as much money as they can. Well, if there's a finite amount of this currency and it becomes something that's utilized quite a bit, the value has to go up.
Right.
It's not going to go down. There's no way for it to go down over time.
Yeah, demand increases and supply stays the same.
Yeah, exactly. And so for that reason, especially right now, because like a lot of people think, I need a savings account. I need to put money in the bank. I need to save for later. Well, if you just have money sitting in the bank, it's losing money. Right. Because of the rate of inflation that the rate that dollars are currently being printed and then the inflation that's about to hit, you don't need to store your money there.
Yeah, I think the return rate's like 0.2% or something on savings accounts. It's like minuscule.
That's a pretty solid.
Yeah, the 0.02 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's small. It's really small.
It is. And so, anyways, I think there's a lot of different things that you can do with the cryptocurrencies. The issue right now is it's very much speculative because it's a brand new industry. All these companies are trying to prove that they can pull off what their vision is, and you're basically betting on those companies to perform, because if they do, it's utilized, the value of the currency goes up, all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And so it's just a lot of speculation right now.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do have advice for anybody looking to invest in crypto. Number one, a lot of the price is driven by the amount of news that's out there about whatever coin it is.
True. There was a lot of hype in the recent months.
Yes. And there are a lot of coins that they call altcoins. They're very new companies, very new coins. And you'll see a bunch of hype about it. And my theory with those is always get in early, wait for the pump, get at the very least, all the money you put in, pull that back out. So like, let's say you put $1,000 in,
right,
and now it's worth $5, pull 1,000 out. Right. You can let that ride, you can pull it out, whatever. If you really think that the project's going to take off, awesome. And then if you're going to invest long term, I would say you're going to want to look into like Ethereum, or there's two competitors that are coming up for Ethereum. One is Cardano. Okay. And the other one is Polkadot.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and they both solve the problem that Ethereum has with scaling and how much it costs. And it's really just a matter of which one pulls it off best and can create the best marketplace. So, because if you think about it, Ethereum's kind of like a platform, right? Where Facebook is a platform, and then everybody builds on top of it. Right. And so ideally, it would be nice if there are multiple platforms, right? And so they could all three be very, very good in the long term and utilized and everything else. But those would be ones to watch, of course. You can go on YouTube and find any guru that says, "Oh, you need to watch these or that or whatever else." But
the self-proclaimed investment types,
which at this point anybody can be a guru, because like if you put money in crypto, it's worth more today. Like it just is. Like if you lost money in crypto, like that's where you're just like, okay, this is not for me, you know. But anyways, it's the Wild West right now. But
it really is.
Yeah. We're gonna do a lot more crypto stuff on here, just because I think I mean, it's a new way. There's so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then with Facebook changing to Meta,
Yeah.
which is
A rebrand to save their butt from all the flack they've been getting recently.
yeah, but I also think it's genius. I mean, like the guy's looking towards the future.
Yeah, it is, because he doesn't want Facebook, his product, to be the face of his parent company. He wants to be able to like separate those two so he can, have more control over all of the things he's currently working.
Right. And so there's so many projects, and we'll probably talk more about these, but like there's one I saw yesterday where they're it's this ridiculous setup, and hopefully maybe we talk more about this on the next one and we can get a video, but
Yeah.
it's like it looks like this futuristic like egg-shaped pod. It's not really a pod, it doesn't have walls around it, but it's got all of these cameras, and within like a split second it takes a picture of everything and it compiles a 3D version of whatever it is. And so so this is like for the metaverse or whatever, you can stand in there, boom, it creates a 3D avatar of yourself, and you can license it for movies, for whatever else, like all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah. And so like this is going to happen. It's weird because you can't see all this stuff, right? It's all virtual. But I think Facebook gives legitimacy to the virtual currencies and everything else going on.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big step forward for them. It also depends on how people take it with, Mark being at the wheel of everything. He's kind of
I mean,
here or there with some people.
Yeah, whether the guy's successful or not in this, I mean, he's not dumb. There's so much money behind it that he's not going to make a bad gamble, right?
No, I think he's going to make something of it. If anyone can, it's going to be this guy.
Yeah.
It just depends on how people receive it. It depends on,
Yeah. And so next episode, here we go, little teaser. We'll talk a little bit more about crypto, how you can invest in it, not have to pay taxes on it, how the taxes actually work, and how you can borrow against your crypto.
Oh, okay.
To buy houses with or other things. Yeah. So this is something I'm looking at doing, and so yeah, we can talk about it next one.
Cool.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
See ya.